MAOT presents to you Awareness Acceptance Action. We would like to thank our sponsors. Major sponsors: Tech Boss Manila, Tech Zone Manila, Back Porch Market, Map Auto Shop Service and Repair, Pinay Transport Services, Hannah Dang's Bills Payment and Money Remittance, Hampas Lupa Volleyball Team, Quest Fuel Station, Koenig Rice Trading, The Company Cebu, ILP Landscaping, Brainwalk Occupational Therapy Center, Cebu OT Home Rehab. Minor sponsors: Wadab Locals Trouser City, Raz Clothing and Souvenir Shop, Nunu PH, Little Wonders Therapy Center, Rai, Benji's Careboy Car Wash, Great Times Travel and Tours, Happy Beginners School of Learning Incorporated. Donors: Norman Fernandez, Grace Panoso Perez. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spotlight on Air, brought to you by the graduate students from the Master of Arts in Occupational Therapy of Cebu Doctors University. We are your hosts for today's episode. I am Haya, and here with me is one of the main hosts of the season. Say hi to everyone, Jello.
What's up, everybody? I'm one of your hosts for today, and my name is Jallo, and welcome to Spotlight on Air Season 4. So before we move on to the main event, let's just have a recap of what happened last time. Do you remember what we learned from episode 1, Haya?
I do recall that the guest speakers were able to discuss the rights of PWDs and yung iba't ibang training program or employment opportunities that they can take to help with their transition para maka-work na sila.
Actually, yun din yung naalala ko from our first episode. So, na-highlight niya yung importance ng pag-advocate for PWDs, di ba? And kung paano natin mapopromote yung rights nila. So, bago tayo mag-start for our main episode, curious lang ako, kumusta ka today, Haya?
I am actually doing well. The sun has been up more often and sunshine is really setting me up in a good mood. Ikaw, Jello, kumusta?
Actually, Haya, I'm doing great. So, a new day means also a new adventure. So, I am thrilled that we will be having another episode for today. And do you know what the title for today is? Let's learn OT and SPED. So, panigurado marami na naman tayong matututunan for today's episode. So, do tell our audience what our episode is all about.
Well, in a nutshell, this episode, we will be discussing the different roles that an occupational has in comparison with special education teacher in school-based setting. And hopefully, mas ma-increase pa natin yung awareness ng general public on how different both professions' roles are.
Okay, that is really fascinating, Haya. And curious din ako, ano yung responsibilities ng isang occupational therapist sa school setting? Kasi they are very rare to find, diba? Hindi sila common na makakita ng isang OT na nag-work on a school setting. And actually, I'm very curious then on what their differences with the role of a SPED teacher is. Lalo na related professional sila or interrelated disciplines ang SPED pati ang OT. So, nagtataka din ako if meron bang overlaps between the two. So, may gusto ka pa bang dagdag, Haya?
And ilalabas ito. I think next week it will be all about the current internship system, how to transition effectively, and how the current school curriculum is adapting to the changes. Kasi nga, di ba, nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic and then schools are changing the system in order for them to adapt to what we're gonna call the new normal.
Actually, yes, I'm very curious about that too. Kasi back in our time when we were still interns, we were not able to experience having an online internship, right? So most of our internship or all of our internship hours were spent on face-to-face clinics, right? Or hospitals.
Mhm.
So um, after that, do you want to give the audience a heads up on how we will conduct our episode for today?
Yes, I want to give everyone a heads up that we will be having a roundtable discussion to help us understand the information better. So, Jello, paki-discuss kung paano natin gagawin yung roundtable discussion.
So actually, a roundtable discussion is very interactive in its nature. So in this case, magkakaroon tayo ng exploration and discussion ng isang very specific topic. In our case, the roles of an OT and a SPED teacher. And ayun, we will give the participants the opportunity to ask questions and form opinions about our topic.
Mhm. Thank you for that, Jello. So, I think without further ado, let's get to know our speakers. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Genevieve Hilaos and Miss Bianca. Miss?
Hi, good
Yes.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, Miss Jen, bago po tayo magsimula formally, why don't you introduce yourself po? Tell us something about yourself muna.
Hello, good evening. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you
Yes
po, Miss
po.
Jen.
Good evening po.
Hello, good evening. Sorry, I'm just using my phone since my laptop is, I don't know what happened with this one.
No problem po.
Good evening to each and everyone. I'm Genevieve B. Hilaos. I'm a special education teacher for almost 4 years. And currently, I am now teaching here in Cambodia. And yeah, and yeah, I am in Cambodia now. And then I have a 2 years teaching experience in the Philippines and Iloilo City. And I just came here last March 11th.
Wow, so ano pala, international pala yung guest natin tonight. All right, thank you so much for that, Miss Jen. Miss Bianca, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
So, hi, everybody. I'm Bianca, but you can call me Bea.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello. So, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I've been working for siguro mga 6 years na. And I'm based here in Negros. So I work in a school where they give services to kids with special needs. So I am actually in a school-based setting. OT in a school-based setting, yeah.
That's actually very interesting, Miss Bea. And me and Haya are really curious on what do OTs do in a school setting.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, thank you both for that. And I think it's time to get down to business now with our discussion for this episode. So why don't we dig into the question, shall we? Okay. First question po. For Miss Bea, what is the role of OT in a school-based setting po?
So before I give you an insight of the roles of OTs in school, so allow me to tell you what OT really is. So OT, it is a profession that works with people of all ages, diba? So our goal is for our patients to engage in meaningful activities despite their disabilities. So what are these meaningful activities? So these are activities that we do from the moment we wake up and before we go to bed. So that includes mga dressing, cooking, taking a bath, gardening, all those. So sa kids, part of their meaningful activities include play and going to school. So OTs, we have different roles and we work in a variety of settings. It may be in the hospital, rehab centers, nursing homes. And like what I said earlier, in my case, since I work in a school that provides services for kids with special needs, I work in a school-based setting. So we OTs, we play a vital role in the education of children with special needs. It's because we focus on promoting these kids' participation and performance in school. Our goal is really for their success and independence in school. We need to equip the child with everything that he or she needs in order to function in the educational environment. So one of our roles is to assess if these kids can participate and function well in school activities. And school activities does not only mean academic areas, but also the non-academic ones. So for example, you have to see if the child can stay seated, can sustain long periods of time attending, focusing, and listening during class discussions. Can they engage and exchange meaningful conversations and ideas with their classmates during group activities? How are their gross and fine motor skills? Can they copy assignments? Can they bring the things asked by the teacher? Can they tolerate the sensations around the classroom and outside the classroom? How about their accessibility? So we observe how these students participate in daily activities, and we also collaborate with the teachers and give recommendations like environmental accommodations. So we can adapt the seating arrangement, the seats of the child, and provide pencil grips or weighted pencils. So those things, those are some of the roles of OT in the school setting.
All right, so from what I get po, diba? Because a lot of people do confuse OT and SPED together. And I appreciate that you pointed out that it's just more than the concepts that we teach, or
Yes.
more than the school-related activities, because people need to understand, diba, that there are also underlying things or problems that may have been affecting the kid in order for him to participate in a school-based
Yes.
activity, correct?
Exactly, yes po.
Okay, and next would be for Miss Jen. How is SPED different from the role of OT po? Since ayun na nga, i-compare na natin yung roles niyo, ano? So Miss Bea discussed ano yung ginagawa ng OT. How about po sa SPED?
So in special education, as a special education teacher, we conduct the TEACH. The acronym TEACH, let's start with letter T. First, we train persons with special needs to be independent. Like if they don't know how to do toileting, if they don't know how to do dressing, if they don't know how to do the life skills activities like the daily living activities, we teachers are here to train them to be independent. And then next, E. E stands for we teachers establish routine for the students. When you say routine, these are the schedules that the students need to do in the school, which means routine is yun yung mga listahan ng mga dapat nilang gawin sa isang classroom o sa isang araw nila sa isang classroom. Tapos paulit-ulit yon, kasi pag hindi natin bibigyan, hindi tayo mag-establish ng routine sa bata na may special needs, magkakaroon sila ng idle time na kung saan magkakos ng kanilang tantrums or frustrations. That's why we teachers need to establish routine for them. Next, letter A. A stands for accommodate. We teachers also provide accommodation for our students. Accommodation means pag 30 items yung test na binibigay sa normal school, sa SPED setting, gumagawa kami na accommodation, which is pag may isang bata na may learning disability, yung 30 items na test na yun, gagawin lamang namin na 10 items na suitable din at saka inline din sa goal na binibigay ng teacher. That's accommodation. Next, for C, we collaborate with other professionals and parents. Like yung sinabi ni Miss Bea, na nag nag-usap kami at nagpa-plan together with the OT, with the speech, with the other therapists and health professionals, and with the parents also to make that individualized educational plan. Kasi pag sa normal school, lesson plan yung binibigay. Pero sa SPED setting, meron kaming individualized educational plan. Meaning, sa isang bata, meron silang tig-isang plan. Hindi yung sa lesson plan mismo sa normal setting na yung isang lesson plan is good for 30 students, for 40 students, pero yung sa SPED, tigi-isa sila. Next, ang H. H stands for we help persons with special needs to achieve their full potential. Kasi pag may disability sila, hindi din tayo nagsa-stop lang doon. Nandito din kami as teachers para makamit nila kung yung ano yung mga strengths nila. Pag magaling sila sa art, pwede kaming makatulong na baka balang araw magiging sikat sila na artist at saka balang araw magiging sikat sila na tagatugtog ng violin. That's what we do in special education.
All right. So I'm hearing actually a lot of similarities between the OT and the SPED when it comes to the school setting. There are things like accommodation, but I guess you do it differently lang talaga on how to exactly do what you need to do. Tanong ko lang po sa inyong dalawa, you both work po in school where the class is purely special children po, or are they mixed?
In my case po, in the Philippines, in Iloilo, my first 2 years of experience, I am teaching adults and adolescents with special needs. Yung class ko po is may tatlo. Nile-level po namin sila, for example, high functional, tapos moderate, tapos low functional. And then mostly po na mga students ko have autism. And then I have one student who has a cerebral palsy and Down syndrome.
I see. How about kay Miss Bea po?
So here in our school, here's a kids therapy venue, mix sila. So if I see that the child can participate well already in the school setting, so I refer them na sa school. Because our center man is, we provide OT services, SPED services, and we are also a preschool at the same time. So yeah, inclusive ang setting.
That's nice naman po. And speaking both of checking if whether the child is ready for probably mainstream, if I may say so. I guess that would like proceed to Jello's next question. Kasi ikaw, Jello, I believe your question next is about yung assessments, correct?
Yes. And I just want to add na actually yung answers ni na Miss Jan tsaka ni Miss Bea dun sa first question, it really gave me a very clear picture on what specific responsibilities that an OT and a SPED teacher does on a school setting. And it helped me learn a lot about the individual educational plan and ayun nga, nakita ko na maraming overlaps between the roles, especially when it comes to giving independence to daily activities. So both roles pala siya ng OT pati ng SPED. So I just want to emphasize na dito nasa stress out ang importance ng interprofessional collaboration between professionals. And ayan, it really helps a lot na nagko-communicate talaga yung OTs and SPED together to achieve a clearer goals for their students or clients. And ayun, actually for my next question, it was also very related to the answers of Miss Bea and Miss Jen. So actually, as you had mentioned a while ago, yung roles for OTs and SPED, they are more on helping the child achieve the fullest potential, right? Pero ask ko lang po is, for Miss Bea, how do we know that a child, or how do we assess for a child if he or she is ready for school readiness, this is either for mainstream schooling or SPED education. So what are actually the prerequisite skills or specific checklists that we have para po masabi or ma-assess ang isang bata for transitioning to SPED or mainstream classroom?
Okay, so before we give interventions, diba, we usually conduct assessments. So to know the child's strengths and the weaknesses. We can use assessment tools, but most of the tools, we need to be trained or qualified, diba, to administer the tools. So in our case here, we evaluate and know if the child is ready for school through our observations, the progress reports that we make, and the recommendations from the multidisciplinary team. So like, for example, nag-recommend na ang developmental pediatrician that the child is ready for school. So we also consider that. But, di ba you ask what skills, no, we need to look for. So I evaluate first the work behaviors. Can the child attend, focus, and wait? Next is the self-regulation of the child. Can he or she maintain or change his or her behavior, the emotions and activity levels? Can they match their activity levels to the task or situation? Their emotions, emotional regulation skills. Can they perceive, understand, and regulate emotions? Language skills, both receptive and expressive language. So for the receptive, can they understand instructions, verbal and written instructions? So expressive skills, can he or she communicate his wants, needs, and even communicate to his friends? We also assess their fine motor skills. Can they trace, color, write their names? And then visual perceptual skills like copying from book to notebook, copying from blackboard to the paper. Also their independence, because diba, when you're in school, when you want to go to the bathroom, you have to be independent. You should know where the bathroom is, how to clean up after peeing and wash your hands, like that. You have to know also how to pack and unpack your things. And then for kids na medyo higher na ang grades, you should assess their higher cognitive skills. Do they know how to reason out, make decisions, make judgments? And then their social interaction skills also. Can they engage in meaningful interaction with other people or show mga appropriate social behavior? And of course, their sensory integration, because most of the kids with autism, they have sensory issues. So do they know how to calm themselves when they are having tantrums or when they are overstimulated? So those are some of the skills that I take into consideration before I can say or I can recommend for the child to be in school or in a SPED class.
Actually, sobrang ganda po ng pagkaka-explain on how do OTs know how to transition a child for school readiness. And I just want to say na very all-encompassing po yung po lang ina-assess po ninyo. So, ayun, nalaman ko po na more on multidisciplinary approaches talaga yung very important na hihingi din ng advice from other professionals. Pero at the same time, magre-rely din on the specialties ng OT like sensory integration, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, and yung independence on daily activities, and yung work behavior. So, very nakakatuwa po na lahat po pala ng skills tinitignan when it comes to transitioning to school readiness, and hindi lang po pala yung concepts ng bata yung tinitingnan. Ayun po, actually, it will be really helpful, especially to parents na marami po kasi parents na nag-a-ask din on pwede po ba mag-transition yung child ko to SPED or mainstream classroom someday. And actually, na-answer po lahat yon nung nasabi niyo po kanina with all the skills that you had mentioned and all the specifics na na-mention po ninyo, na-answer po lahat yun kanina. And how about kay Miss Jen naman po? Actually, I have the same question, pero how do SPED teachers naman po assess who need their services?
In case of sa amin po ng SPED teacher, iko-compare ko lang po yung experience ko doon sa Philippines at saka dito po sa Cambodia. Kasi po, nung nasa Iloilo po ako, yung teacher po mismo yung nag-a-assess. Pag may bata na dumating sa school, kami yung gumagawa ng initial assessment. Tapos, may school-made assessment kami na ginagawa. Tapos, doon na kami nag-ano ng mga, paano yung bata. Kasi kami, transition center. Pag yung goal na gusto ng parent, yun yung gagawin namin for the 4 months. Then, pag na-achieve pa, every month, nagkakanda kami na assessment. Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, my internet connection is unstable.
You may continue po. Naririnig ka po namin. Okay, while we wait for it. I mean, I think Miss Jen has problems with her internet connection. So why don't we just proceed muna with the next question po, no, for Miss Bea. So you mentioned earlier po kanina with regards to the prerequisite skills and how you OTs assess kids who will want to transition into mainstream. Ngayon po, once a kid has already entered either a special program or a mainstream program, so what are the techniques used po ba of OTs in a school-based setting po? Like for probably intervention, or how are the techniques different from SPED?
So one of the techniques that I do first is really environmental modification techniques, because like kids with autism, they have sensory issues. So we have to know what stimuli that would trigger their stimming behaviors or make them throw meltdowns. So we modify the environment. So for example, there are visual cues around the room and the child is visual sensitive. So we ask the teacher if is it okay ba na we will remove them, things like that. And also to some of the schools here, I try to ask the principal, or I communicate with the principal and the teachers if they can provide sensory supports. So because there are some times that the child cannot regulate his emotions and they need to have an outlet. So I asked the principal if they can provide a sensory room for these kids. Even a small room will do. Para lang they can calm themselves down, and when they are calm, they can go back inside the classroom. So yeah, and also behavior modification techniques. I communicate with the teachers and teach them some of the behavior modification techniques that may be used in school, like giving positive reinforcements or using visual schedules. Oops, I'm sorry. Token economy. Yeah, like that.
Wow, that is actually very interesting. And I love po how you put an emphasis to the environmental modification and the sensory support po. As you mentioned earlier, that children, especially special children who are going into school, may have to actually have the environment adapted in accordance to their needs. And how you said that yung sensory support na kailangan po ng bata, I really do appreciate, and I hope na sana mangyari din po yan, because alam po natin na like meltdowns or other tantrums can actually be tamed, di ba po? So
Yes.
kailangan po yun po yung mga needs talaga ng mga bata when it comes to the school. Is Miss Jen back with us? Wala pa po ba siya? Or nandito po siya ulit?
Ayun na po.
Ayan, sige po,
Okay.
Miss Jen.
Ay.
I actually have a question for you po. So, question is, what are some of the different techniques or teaching approaches that are used po by SPED teachers in school-based settings po?
Mm, hello?
Yes po.
Pag sinabi po kasing techniques and strategies, each teacher po has different techniques and strategies. Pag ako may sarili akong technique na ina-apply sa bata, yung co-teacher ko, meron din siyang sariling techniques. Hindi kami magkapareho, pero yung way of paano kami mag-deal sa bata is may konting similarity. For example po is yung bata is hindi siya marunong mag-identify ng numbers. Dahil hindi siya marunong mag-identify ng numbers at mahilig siya maglaro ng clay, pwede po natin i-incorporate yung clay at saka yung numbers. Pwede tayong gumawa ng numbers sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng clay. Pwede tayong gumawa ng number 1, number 2, at saka number 3. Isa pong goal doon is identifying numbers 1 to 3 at saka yung number 1-to-1 correspondence. When you say 1-to-1 correspondence is kailangan i-match ng bata yung number mismo sa correct quantity. Pag gagamitin po natin yung clay, pwede din po tayong gumawa ulit ng maliit na clay, tapos ipipress po ng bata yung 1. Ibig sabihin yung number 1 po, isang clay lang po yung lalagay niya doon. Ibig sabihin, number 1 stands for isang clay lang. At saka yung number 2, dalawang clay po yung lalagay niya doon. At saka number 3, tatlong clay din po. Pag sa letters po, gumagawa po kami ng dot, tsaka sticker stamping. Yung napiprint po kami ng mga letters na may space sa gitna. Tapos doon po nila isa-stamp yung mga stickers. Kasi may isang bata din na mahilig mag-stickers. Pwede po natin i-incorporate yung interest niya sa kanyang weaknesses. Yun po yung isa sa mga techniques. Isang technique din po is yung pag-provide ng reinforcement. Pag yung bata is gusto niyang gamitin yung music toy niya at saka hindi niya gustong gawin yung certain activity, pwede natin siyang i-orient na if you finish this activity, you can get this toy. You can get that prize. Yun po yung reinforcement. At saka nagpo-provide po din tayo ng token economy pag gusto niya po, pag kailangan niya pong gawin pag natapos na po yung isang activity, pwede po tayong magbigay ng candy as a token na natapos na po yung activity.
Thank you for that po, Miss Jen. Actually, ang dami ko po natutunan from you and napansin ko na meron nga pong similarities yung OT pati yung SPED when it comes to the intervention techniques. Like yung sa behavioral management techniques, ganon. And yun, na-emphasize din po yung importance ng paggamit ng preferences ng child in order for them to stay motivated to the activity. And ayun, actually, na-mention din ni Miss Haya kanina yung importance ng pagbigay din ng sensory supports for the child and the proper environmental modifications like the proper seat height, kung gaano kalayo yung board dun sa bata or yung distractions within the environment and kung organized ba or messy yung environment. Actually, it plays a big role on how the child will perform po, di ba? On how the child will perform on the school setting. So, do you want to add anything more, Haya?
Actually, no. I-repeat ko lang sana yung sasabihin mo talaga when it comes to the similarities with BMTs as Miss Jen mentioned, no? So, I don't know. I want to see how this discussion will go further pa. Like, you can ask your next question, Jella.
So, since na-discuss niyo na po both yung about sa assessment and pati sa intervention when it comes to OT and SPED, how about let's look at it in a bigger approach po. How about for Miss Bea, what is the actual treatment process that is used by OTs in a school-based setting, either for mainstream or SPED po?
Hello, sorry again. Sorry, my
Um,
internet is, yeah,
uh,
unstable.
Sige po. Looking at a bigger picture, kasi na-explain niyo na rin po kanina kung paano yung sa assessment and intervention, and how do we, what's the actual treatment process used by OTs in a school-based setting? Parang yung flow po, or yung parang general, parang model, parang ganon, the treatment process po.
Oh, okay, okay. So here in our center, the child is first referred to OT. So I
Mm.
work on the child's behavior, the communication skills, the sensory issues, the awareness, and everything else. The skills that I mentioned earlier. And once these skills are established, I refer them to SPED. No, so once the kids are in SPED, I set meetings and then I make sure that I have an open communication with the SPED teacher. So we exchange notes about the child's progress and what skills we need to work on. And then after that, when we both see that the child is ready for school, we refer the child to school. So once the child is in school, all of us, the multidisciplinary team, they should work together na. The OT, the SPED teachers, the parents, the staff sa school, and the parents, of course. So at this time, we use the PEO model. Are you familiar with the PEO model? So we do not only look into the person, which is the child, but also the environment in which the child interacts with. So that is the school and the people in school, and the occupation or the role of the child in school, which is being the student. So our goals should not only focus on the child's behavior during our sessions in the clinic. We also have to consider the child's behavior in school and the problems he or she has that hinders her ability to function well. So that's the model that I use, the PEO model. That's, yeah.
Thank you for that answer, Miss Bea. Actually, uh, it was very informative po. Actually, what I heard a while ago from your answer, parang natutunan ko po na, yun nga po, parang maganda na meron pong open line of communication between the parents and the therapist and the SPED teacher. And ayun, maganda rin po na nakikipag-communicate sa DevPed, sa center po ninyo, sa developmental pediatrician para malaman if ready na po talaga yung child for transitioning to SPED. And actually, mas kami pong mga nasa audience, pati kaming mga nasa host, parang mas naintindihan po namin how PEO works, the person environment occupation model works, and the importance na pagtingin sa lahat ng aspects when it comes to the school-based setting sa treatment process, like pagtingin sa environment, if optimal ba yung environment for the child's learning, both the social and the physical environment. Yun nga po yung prerequisite skills sa persons, and yung mismong school-based performance, kung ano po yung parang nakaka-affect sa performance niya. Maganda po talaga na tinitignan po yun. Tama po ba, Miss Bea?
Yes, yes, that's important. Yeah, because you have to think about the child and his or her performance in school na, not na yung problems niya that you see sa center or during your sessions alone.
So, ayun po, parang na-emphasize din po talaga yung importance ng pag-assess po talaga ng occupation when it comes to the natural context po ng child, which is the school, hindi na po sa clinical setting. Okay. So, thank you for that po, Miss Bea. And to have a comparison po with the SPED education, ano naman po yung treatment process na ginagamit nyo po for SPED teachers when it comes to providing education or school readiness for the child? Miss Jen?
For the treatment process po, nagbe-base po kaming teachers dun sa IEP na plano ng multidisciplinary team. Yung sa IEP po is binibigay po yon sa parent ng student after ng initial assessment. Tapos, dun po sa IEP is may goal. May goal na naka-include. Tapos, yung mga learning areas niya, kunwari may cognition, may motor skills, which includes the fine and the gross, the speech, and then the behavior, and learning skills, which includes the math, the English, and writing, and the reading. Sa SPED po, yung ginagawa po namin, itatakal ko lang po yung experience ko dito for the past 3 months na po dito sa sa school po na pinagtatrabuhan ko po dito sa Cambodia. Kasi po yung school ko po is sa isang school po, nag-provide po yung school ng therapy at saka special education class, which is nag-iisang school po siya dito sa Cambodia. Meron po kami ditong speech therapy, then occupational therapy, at saka behavior therapy, yung applied behavior analysis therapy, at saka special education class. Pag yung bata po is naka-enroll sa dalawang session, for example po, pumili po yung parent ng dalawang session ng OT, which means may 2 days po, two OT in 1 week. So, yung sa IEP po, meron pong goal doon na under sa OT. Tapos yung ginagawa po ng special education teacher po is kami po yung nagpa-follow up ng mga activities na ginawa doon ng bata sa isang session. Kasi po yung therapy po dito is naglalast lang po ng 45 minutes. Kaya kami po yung nagpa-follow up kasi yung bata sa amin naglalast ng mga 3 hours, 2 hours in a day. Kaya po yung ginagawa po namin is nagpa-follow up kami ng mga activities. Kunwari po, may isa po akong estudyante na may cerebral palsy. And yung niya po, yung lower limbs, hindi po siya makakalakad. Kaya yung OT po namin is nag-provide ng parang yung tungkod na may pang tawag doon? Yung roller sa sa ilalim para makalakad siya. Tapos yung technique po na sinabi ng OT is pag nagta-transition sa isang classroom yung student, kailangan po namin gamitin yung kanyang tungkod. At saka yung communication po between the OT and the SPED teacher, kailangan po maging open kami para sa progress po ng isang bata.
Actually, that is very interesting po. And ayun, na-mention niyo nga po na you spend a lot of time with your students in Cambodia. So, minsan naglalast po nga ng 2 hours or 3 hours. Kaya parang na-mention niyo yung importance ng pag-follow up or pag-carry over ng mga goals niyo or mga tasks niyo pagdating sa next professional, di ba?
Yes,
So, nakapag-reflect din po ako na very relevant nga po talaga na ayun, nagkakaroon nga ng carry over or transfer of learning between different professions. Kasi actually, doon po talaga malalaman if magre-retain yung skills na nakuha ng bata. Parang ganun po ba? Kasi parang if makikarry over siya ng mga ibang professionals or yung mismong parents, ibig sabihin kahit sa iba-iba pong places is mapapakita pa rin po or ma-execute pa rin po ng bata yung skills on different environments. Tama po ba, Miss Jen?
Yes po. Kaya kailangan dapat na yung collaboration ng team po.
So, ayun, very important nga po talaga yung collaboration between different professionals and especially the parents po. Their involvement with the goals na meron po para dun sa child. Haya, meron ka pa bang sentiments about their answers?
Actually, all throughout the discussion that we have, I have been really highlighting like the similarities between the two professions, and especially the emphasis on how both of them say na they work together with an interdisciplinary team. So it's not only one professional that's working on a kid. It's not only the parent or the SPED teacher or the OT itself. So there is this world that they have within them. So my next question goes actually to the both of our speakers for tonight. So I think na may na-mention na kayong points when it comes to open communication between OT and SPED. Are they other how are ano parang what are the other ways that the OTs and SPED teachers work together um in a school or in whatever setting po? Miss Bea, would you like to go first?
Oh, so how OTs and SPED teachers work together, right?
Yes po.
Oh, so here in Kinstera venue in our school, like what I said earlier, the child is first referred to OT, and then after OT, the child is referred to SPED. So once the child is referred to SPED, the SPED teachers and we set appointments and meetings to talk regarding their problems in handling the child or our goals and interventions. But aside from having an open communication and collaborating with each other, I also allow the SPED teachers to observe the child during his OT session. So they will have an idea on what approaches and strategies that they may apply just in case the child resorts to tantrums and meltdowns during their SPED classes. So yeah, that's one of the things that we do here in our center.
Mm-mm. I think what you just mentioned earlier with regards to the SPED teachers observing, it's very crucial po when it comes to the treatment of the kid, and that's part of how an interdisciplinary team should collaborate, in my opinion po, and that would be a very appreciative gesture for, I guess, either party when one takes the other professional to like observe and get to know our world naman po. Tama po,
Yes.
di ba?
Uh-uh.
How about po for Miss Jem? How do you usually work with OTs? Or how do you work together po?
Like what Miss Bea said, we sit together, the OT and sit together to discuss um, what are the strategies and techniques that we are going to provide for that student to achieve that goal. Pa, dito po kasi hindi po kami allowed mag-observe. Kasi po yung therapy po na pino-provide ng OT is galing sa isang center. Center po. Bali yung center po is may contract siya dun sa school, kaya hindi po kami allowed mag-observe. Pero pag may sinasabi po na gawin yung OT, ginagawa din po namin. Tapos nagtatanong din po kami kung paano yung na-observe niya before at after niya ginawa yung technique.
Okay. So when it comes to the communication between you and the OT, is it verbal communication or you just go through the progress notes or such?
Verbal po, verbal communication. Kasi po dito, last month, last May, Miss Joanne was a part-time OT in our school, and then with Miss Joanne, I can say that I can communicate what are the strategies that we are going to implement with that child. But in some OTs, the other OTs, there are some difficulties since their nationalities also our nationalities have that language barrier. Since some of the OTs are Cambodians and some of the OTs are British, sometimes I just ask questions to my co-teacher since she's been here for almost 7 months already, and she's been also matagal na din po niyang nakilala yung student. Pero pag sa bagong student po, medyo naka-adjust na po ako. Tsaka doon na po ako nagtatanong sa OT mismo.
Okay. Thank you for that, Miss Jen. So, collaboration and communication between professionals also has its challenges, I believe, and not only, especially for you na nasa international field. So, not only with your patients alone, but I guess with other OTs as well and
Yeah.
other professionals. So, that's one of the challenges na hindi ko in-expect that you would mention. Okay, so I think we have one more question open up for the both of you. I think Jello has it. We have a question from the audience actually.
Actually, yeah, mentioning the topic that we had a while ago about the culture. So I just want to have a comparison between the culture or how the system works, how the educational system works between Cambodia and the Philippines. So for Miss Bea first, can you explain the cultural barriers that you had encountered from in your center being a school-based occupational therapist? And how do you handle it po?
Cultural barriers here.
Or any other social social factors that affected your performance in as a school-based teacher, a school-based OT, and how you handled it?
Oh, I didn't have that much problems with regards to like any cultural barriers or social factors as of the moment. Yeah, but siguro one of the problems is like similarities lang with the OT and the SPED, something like that. Like in some schools here, they do not have SPED teachers. So, and they treat kids that have not received OT services ever since. So it's difficult that the teachers have to do the work of the OT and the SPED at the same time. Yeah. So when I went to one school and they didn't have any idea on the different approaches and techniques on how to handle kids with special needs in school. So they are not helping the child, strive in school, but instead they're adding more problems. And the child is not progressing, but regressing instead.
So actually, that's a main big problem po, especially here in the Philippines, na kulang din po yung mga professionals in handling children with special needs. So parang kulang po yung mga OTs and kulang po yung mga SPED teachers natin, and nag-end up na hindi po nakukuha ng mga bata or yung mga children with special needs yung mga services na kailangan po talaga nila. So that is one of the factors po na napansin nyo, or cultural factors na napansin nyo na meron po tayo dito sa Philippines. Am I right po?
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you for that po, Miss Bea. Lastly naman po, for the last question for Miss Jen, same question din po. As you had mentioned a while ago, meron pong parang language barrier and other, for example, cultural factors, like for example, differences in social expectations in Cambodia. So ano po yung mga, as a Filipino SPED teacher po, ano po yung mga na-encounter niyong cultural barriers na yon, and how did you handle it po?
As a Filipino teacher po, pag sa SPED class po, mas prefer ko yung early intervention sa Pilipinas. Kasi dito po, hindi pa sila aware kung ano yung tinatawag na children with special needs. At saka marami dito na wala silang proper early intervention, kaya maraming cases na severe na yung na non-verbal. Unlike sa atin sa Pilipinas na yung parang mga tao doon is marami na siyang awareness na, may mga bata pala na ganito, na kailangan ng support ng isang OT, na kailangan ng support ng isang SPED teacher at saka ng other health professionals. Pero dito po kasi parang in denial pa yung mga tao tsaka especially yung mga parents. So yung mga social barriers at saka mga language barriers po. One of them po is yung I have that OT in our school. We have that certain student. That certain student of mine likes to be treated like gently. He likes to like the tickle thing, but that um, other OT is so that strict. That's why so in some of the sessions, that student is having a agitations. He just don't want to do the task. He just want to jump. Since the session is conducted in our sensory room, tsaka mahilig kasi laro lang yung yung estudyante. Kaya meron kaming TA din, ang teaching assistant. Kaya nagsabi yung isang teaching assistant sa amin na, teacher, bakit pag ikaw yung nag-handle sa bata, hindi siya, gusto niyang gawin yung yung activity. Pero pag sa isang OT, ayaw niya. Tapos nagsabi lang kami sa sa TA na, kasi iba yung way of teaching namin sa pag sa SPED class ka at saka pag sa OT ka. Kaya sinabi lang namin sa TA na just respect kung ano yung way of teaching ng isang tao at saka yung isang tao. Yan yung first na barrier na experience ko last month. At saka pag sa social barrier din po, kasi yung mostly ng mga parents dito is in denial pa. Yung iba hindi nila gusto ma-enroll yung anak nila sa special school. Kasi baka sabihin ng mga tao, "Ay, yung anak mo naka-enroll sa sa special school." Ano siya, parang may yung hindi siya normal, yung parang mangmang siya, mga ganon.
Thank you for that po, Miss Jen. And actually, sobrang dami niyo pong na-discuss about sa mga different socio-cultural barriers dyan sa Cambodia. And ayun, parang na-emphasize niyo po talaga yung importance ng pag-advocate sa professions ng OT tsaka ng SPED kasi parang nasabi nga po ninyo na kulang po sa awareness yung mga tao dyan and mababa nga po yung level of acceptance when it comes to pag nadadiagnose po yung mga bata, ganon. Parang meron pa rin po stigma, parang ganon po yung na-mention nyo. And, yes. And ayun nga po, tapos na-mention nyo rin po na nagkaroon nga po ng parang ethical issue, parang nako-compare nga po yung way of teaching ng OT and SPED. And actually, I was very happy po na na-mention nyo na we have to respect po each other's profession. And actually, yun naman po talaga yung parang pinaka-optimal way to handle that situation. So, I'm just happy po na na-mention nyo nga po na parang nasabi nyo nga po sa parent na parang we have to respect po each other. Actually, very informative tong episode for today, no, Haya? Madami ka ba natutunan?
Actually, ang dami-dami kong natutunan and right now, I can say na I have more appreciation as to how OTs work, especially in the school-based setting, and how yung collaboration natin with SPED is, integral to make something like really work. Kasi there are things, although we have a lot of similarities, we have a lot of techniques that might be the same and such, there are still things na are very, tawag nito, yung masasabi nating mas, parang may forte din yung kada profession. Mm-hmm. Like, there are things that we as OTs can do, but maybe the SPED can do better, or there are also things that the SPED can do that, we OTs can also do better at I'm not saying na comparison na talagang who's better ha. I'm just saying na ano, there are things na, it's balance, and the way that you mentioned respect, yun yung I think pinaka takeaway ko rin dito sa episode na to. Yun nga, there needs to be so much respect for each profession because we need each other in this field of, in this field of that what we have. That's why we have an interdisciplinary team kasi we can't work alone. There always needs to be someone who we will be working with para we can achieve what is best for our kids or our patients, our clients, and whoever else needs our services.
Actually, that is very true, Haya. And to wrap it all up, before we end today's episode, actually, yung parang nakita kong parang common theme about the answers from both Miss Jen and Miss Bea is parang the importance of communication between both parties. And ayun nga, parang napansin ko rin na meron talagang same philosophy ang OT pati ang SPED when it comes to being client-centered, di ba? Parang napansin mo ba? Na parang
Napansin ko nga yun.
they really consider the goals of the parents and yung skills ng bata in order to give the proper and the most, the best activities na fit talaga for the child. Okay?
Exactly. So I guess we would like to thank both of our guests, Miss Bea and Miss Jen, for everything that you have shared with us. So please allow Jello to present to you the certificates.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Genevieve B. Hilaos, for imparting valuable insights as a resource speaker during the event Ready, Let's Learn OT and SPED on June 19, 2022 at 8 p.m. So thank you po, Miss Jen, for this wonderful opportunity for us na binigay po ninyo para for us to learn on how do OTs thrive in a school-based setting.
It's an honor po to have this experience also, and marami din po akong natutunan sa event po na ito.
Okay,
Okay.
so
And we would also like to present a certificate of recognition for Miss Bianca Kabugason for the valuable information and insights, for imparting for us the valuable insights as a resource speaker during the event of Ready, Let's Learn OT and SPED on June 19, 2022 at 8 p.m. So thank you so much, Miss Bea.
Thank you also. And I hope I somehow imparted my knowledge to you guys.
Yes, po, very
Thank
much.
you.
Actually, you did as well, po. Thank you so much for that. And I really have to say that I have learned a lot on how OTs and SPED teachers, differ from their roles and how they communicate in order for them to work optimally. So, what are your final thoughts for this episode, Jello?
actually, for this final episode, it was really, there was a lot
Final
of
na, may part 2
takeaways.
pa tayo.
Actually, meron pa nga palang part 2. So, for the final takeaway of this episode, actually, I learned about how OTs and SPED treat together, how they assess the skills that are needed for school readiness, and especially the importance of being client-centered and communicating within each other and respecting the profession of each other. Actually, yun lang yung parang key takeaways ko for this episode. How about you, Haya?
Well, ang pinaka key takeaway ko is actually the mutual respect. Yung kanina mo pa mention yung respect na yan. Yes, the respect that we have and that working together as both professionals, OT and SPED, I think it is, parang it is a highlight na there's always something that I can learn from another profession, even if I am growing as a profession as an OT myself, there are things that I still would want to learn from other professions, especially if we are collaborating with them.
So I agree, Haya. So we should really be promoting a safe and equitable school environment for students, right?
Yes, I would really have to agree with that, that we have to continuously learn and adapt in order to thrive in this or forever changing world of ours. So the episode today was really informative. Ano, ang dami nating bagong natutunan. But before we end, I'd like to remind you guys that our episode has a part 2 that we'll be tackling about classroom to internship with our clinical coordinators. So be there, guys. Okay?
Yes, I can't really wait for episode 2, Haya. And I'm really excited to hear their perspectives on how internships work on the pandemic setting and the coping skills that they need in order to transition better, and the new school curriculum that happened because of the pandemic. And we hope to see you there, guys, on June 25. So I am Jello signing off today. Good night.
Yes, and I am Haya, and I'm really thankful for everyone for participating in this episode. That will be all for today, everyone. I will see you on the next episode of Spotlight on Air. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.